fear when you come to me, 'cause I'm weird, I'm a one of a kind, and I'll bring death to the place you're about to be. Another river of blood running under my feet.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another amazing episode brought to you by Games Glitches. In today's episode, we're gonna take a look at all special equipment and vendor merchants that have been reset on December 17th, so you don't have to spend time traveling between each merchant and looking it up. I'm going to gladly do this all for you. Now, let's take a look at the first merchant located at the base of operation. Down over here, the special equipment vendor. First weapon we have on the list is a historian. Now let's take a look at the historian. It has prepared, intense, and harmful, and does about 60k with 167% headshot damage. Honestly, based on its talents, it's not that worth it. Actually, honestly, it's not really worth it at all for 1248 Phoenix credits. Like, you could easily find a much better weapon anyway. Now, the next one on our list would be the Liberator. The Liberator right here has is an assault rifle with 16.6k damage with 3 talents of competent, dominant, and talented. Right now, competent in 1.5 is actually quite a very decent talent. You know, when you use a skill or you throw a grenade or anything, it increases your damage output by 10%, you know, which is actually quite nice. The next one would be dominant. And honestly, with dominant, I've never honestly used dominant, never really found the use for it. It's not, in my opinion, every kill performed while your signature skill is active reduces the cooldown of your other. There are so many other talents that are so much better than this that it didn't make sense for me to have it. And then we have talented. Killing a target with a weapon increases skill power by 15%. Considering that most of the time right now, everybody is leaning towards mostly DPS and kind of ignoring electronics. At least I am. You know, in most retrospect, this talent is not that good for me because that 15%, it is not going to increase my skill power by that much. Even based on my current skill power, it could only give me maximum of 15,000, 16,000 skill power. Honestly, for what it's worth, these talents, for example, as determined as mentioned, they take up way too much electronics. You would need to sacrifice quite a hefty load of DPS to get these electronics, unless you're a sticky bomb build. Now, the next one on the list is we have our first wave. First wave came with Expert and Destructive. These two are very nice talents, especially Destructive, which is one of the best right now in 1.5 in my opinion. You know, for what is for armor destruction value is increased by when using this weapon, because armor is so heavily dependent and everything is so heavily dependent on armor that this talent is, in my book, a must-have on your weapons. And this pistol is quite amazing. You know, if you have 998 and you don't want to farm your own, you could definitely get this first wave X45. It's definitely very, very nice. The next we have, of course, is first wave Vector 45 ACP. You know, back in the day, I would have loved and killed for these talents, especially like having a brutal, you know, fierce and stuff like that, except for like Swift would definitely get rid of it. But since 1.5 and 1.4 and honestly 1.3, first wave Vector has been kind of the bottom of the barrel, you know, with both its damage and even if you improve its clip. Even though this one is quite decent, you know, it has a brutal on it, it has fierce, and it has Swift. Even though Swift in my book is not one of the most amazing talents, it's still quite decent, because if you could reload slightly quicker than your opponent, who knows, you might end up taking them down. We have Elvok C, and this time around, this weapon, these rolls are quite amazing. It has vicious, deadly, and destructive. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are running a set Alpha Bridge and you need, you know, another assault rifle, this is quite an amazing roll. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't seen an LVAC rolled with these in, well, ever, honestly. With destructive, deadly, and vicious. And you could honestly re-roll whatever you want here, but honestly, I would not touch this at all. These three talents are what you would love to have, even though deadly is not as amazing as it used to be in 1.3 and earlier, where it was like mandatory, must have, and you know, everything. Here it's a little bit different, but it's still an amazing talent. Vicious critical hit chance increased by 10% while having more than 2 segments of health is also quite amazing, but honestly that one I might end up re-rolling because currently right now I do not have Predatory on any of my weapons, and Predatory is killing a target regenerates 35% of health over 20 seconds, which is quite amazing considering the fact that they've done the armor nerf and now you need buttload of armor to survive. Predatory value actually went up quite drastically. Now let's take a look at the shotgun. Right here we have a Super 90 with a commanding, on forgiving, and dominant. Honestly, the only talent that's here again that's worth it is unforgiving. Commanding, honestly, in my book is a kind of crap. Unforgiving, as mentioned, is amazing, and dominant is not that great anymore. It really was never that great. You could use so many more talents that could be so much better than dominant that you could put there, especially considering the fact that you do not need to have any, points in stamina or firearms to be able to use it. There's so many more things you could use there than that. Now let's take a look at classic M44 carbine. Right here it has 112k DPS. Honestly, that's in my end. I seen much higher classic M44 carbines, and I seen quite slightly higher, but this is a pretty good, decent 157% headshot damage. The talents it has on it is sustained, talented, and competent. For the talents that it has, except for honestly for competent, everything else is not really worth it. Kill is sustained because this is a kind of a sniper rifle. Killing sustained is not really that effective. Talented is okay, again as mentioned before, but it's not one of the better. There's so much better talents that this could have, or you could find this with, that this kind of feels like wasting 1200 or 1248 Phoenix credits. Now the last on our list, we're gonna only go through weapons and then I'll just quickly scroll through the gear so you guys could see it. We have right here military L86 LSW with 15.7k with 13 damage to target out of cover. This weapon is actually really nice, but this time around the talents are decent. You got accurate, you have unforgiving, and competent. I've seen military L86s with slightly more damage than this. And on top of that, you could get some many other weapons that LVAC is way better. For this price, it's honestly not worth it unless you enjoy this type of weapon. Then, it's power to you. Now just to quickly take a look at what gear they have, so you guys could spec up Striker Mask, Final Measure, Predatory. Honestly, none of it is even remotely worth it at all. If you guys want to check this out so I don't waste too much of the video, you guys could come to this merchant personally. I'll just quickly click through this. You could pause the video, check out the stats if you are interested. The next merchant on the list would be a special blueprints vendor. So you guys could take a look at all the blueprints he has. I am sure many of you already have all of these because it doesn't make sense in getting 182. He doesn't have any kind of really amazing blueprints this time around, so I can't honestly recommend anything off of him. Unless you notice something that is good, put it in a comment below. I could miss something, but honestly, from my point perspective, there was nothing really worth it to get at this merchant whatsoever. Now, the next merchants on our list are going to be on the top floor of the base of operations. The first one, we're going to start with the very left gentleman right here, our weapons vendor. Now, let's take a look at what he has. Of course, we're not going to take a look at purples, but we're going to take a look at the yellows. He has the classic RPK-74 with the talents Unforgiving, Capable, and Accurate. Unfortunately, this weapon, the damage is way too low. it's definitely not worth the 1.6 million credits that it's asking. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, you're better off getting the LVAC downstairs. Why I say that? Because you could actually get quite an amazing, quite very, very amazing, not the best, but definitely quite up there, pro red dot scope for quite cheap, very, very cheap. The next on our list would be the gear vendor. The gear vendor only has 2 yellow items. Would be tactical pads, which are crap, completely not really worth the 890,000. And they have prototype stamina mod, which is actually not quite bad, especially if you're going for that DPS, and it gives you that DPS HP kind of a thing. So, you know, it's definitely worth getting it. The next on our list would be the Dark Zone vendor, who always tends to sell some nice goodies. Right here we have a police M4 with quite very, very nice talents and quite actually a good amount of DPS. And it's also an assault rifle that can actually go quite well with LVAC and the Alpha Bridge. So please know, ladies and gentlemen, that this weapon could actually, if you're looking for a weapon to go coincide with your LVAC that you decided to get, this weapon is definitely could be one of them. Right here we have a swift, competent, and brutal. On top of that, it is 17.5k damage, and it comes at quite a decent price at almost 416,000 Dark Zone credits. Next up, we have a prototype stamina mod right here, which gives 238, which is quite decent, and 2.5% exotic damage resilience in case you're looking to get have resistance towards those sticky bombs. You know, if you are, this is definitely the spot to go. Now, the next on our list is we got the large suppressor FD. Now, the next merchant is Advanced Weaponry Vendor that we have right here. That he has for sale quite a good chunk of goodies. Right now, you could also buy a pecan. Again, well, you know, this time around it's thankfully reset with a pecan still here. Right now, pecan actually comes with a handful of very, very nice talent. Destructive, ferocious, and swift. Honestly, for pecan, you know, aside maybe from swift, I would not get it, would replace anything else, because ferocious is quite amazing, because in reality, you're dealing constantly with named or yellow enemies. So, ferocious is quite amazing talent for the person to use. Destructive is definitely the best and one of the best in 1.5, and swift helps you to reload your light machine gun a little faster, because pecan does take a little heavy on the reload side. So this pecan is honestly quite worth the hefty sum of 1.6 million. Next on the list, we have Cassidy, a double-barrel shotgun. Unfortunately, I don't like double-barrel shotguns. Never found a real use for them except for using them with Alpha Bridge and as a secondary weapon for their ability. But aside from that, nothing else. And on top of that, this one didn't even come with that great of talents, you know, for at least a shotgun. So I would honestly not recommend getting Cassidy for 1.6 million at all. Next on the list, we have the Centurion. Centurion, this time around, it actually has a decent damage per bullet, but honestly, I would not use it unless you're trying to chase somebody down and set them on fire so they can run away. But again, the sacrifice is quite too hefty to have too high of electronics. Unless you have good amount of electronics, this quite is useless for you. You know, the first wave X45, the one that from the earlier merchant, would be much better. The next on the list, whoops, there we go. The next on our list is PX4 Storm Type F with Expert Intense. I have exactly the same feeling about it as I do about the Centurion. If you're looking to buy something, the other pistol is much better. Next, we have Tactical Vector Submachine Gun with Unforgiving, Self-Preserved, and Dominant. Honestly, right now, submachine guns, like especially this one, is kind of crap, so it definitely not worth it. Then we have a lightweight M4 with a quite decent damage with skilled, predatory, and capable. Honestly, this weapon is definitely worth it, especially if you're using it with an LVAC or something along the lines. You know, if you want to have Alpha Bridge build, you know, with Alpha Bridge bonus build, this weapon for its talents is quite worth it, especially for that money. Then after that we have SAG-12 with kind of a low end damage with a tainted, adept, and sustained. Honestly, for 1.6, not worth it. Surplus SVD again on the lower bottom end of damage, but it does come with predatory. That's the only bright side off of it. So honestly, would not recommend it. Then we have our military MK46 with 16.2k damage. Our light machine gun. It's actually quite very nice. You know, this one has meticulous, determined, and deadly. Honestly, I would keep a deadly and then reroll either meticulous or determined. Most likely determined if I would choose to use this weapon for whatever reason. For one simple reason, because again it requires a buttload of electronics. But if you have those electronics, then maybe meticulous would be the thing to reload. You know, even it's a decent talent at best. It's not amazing. There are plenty of more amazing talents that you could put on this weapon. Simple one as would be predatory. Next we have our weapon mods. Right here we have a quick release magazine, which is decent at best. You know, for the price, of course, you could definitely buy and check it out, see if it fits your FAMAS and Scarh, depending on your playstyle. Then we have the Omega Rifle Suppressor. Then we have PEQ Laser Green. Then we have ourselves a Hollow Sign. You know, these are quite decent, you know, but I've seen much better stuff drop out of a dark zone, underground, or even survival caches or anything. You know, I've seen better stuff come out, so this is up to you. If you haven't been getting luck, you should definitely check this out. Now we're at the Kerman Station safe house. We're at the vendor. The vendor has two yellow items, a black market SAG-12. Honestly, it's on a very low end. Would not recommend it whatsoever. It's really shitty shotgun, plus shotguns have been quite nerfed. Would not recommend it. And we have a capacitor with 11.5% stability, with 6% headshot and 4.5% optimal range. Honestly, not worth it. The other merchants had it better. The next merchant would be Dantes Ron. Right here, unfortunately, this merchant doesn't have anything else that's really worth it. Right here, we have a tactical knee pads. You know, with accomplished talent, they're quite crappy. You know, next one we have prototype performance mount. That is decent at best. I mean, 468k, why not? If you literally enjoy having a long range pulse, this could be used quite hefty in PvP. The next vendor would be in Wolf's Den. This weapon merchant also unfortunately doesn't have anything good. He has a custom L86A2 with a brutal, meticulous, and a talented, but it's a light machine gun. Honestly, yeah, unless you're going for that brutal, the rest of the talents aren't worth it, and you could find a much better weapon. The small grip is not bad for your FAMAS or your Scarh L, which has 19% crit high damage, 2.5% stability, and 4.5% reload speed. You know, it's quite decent for that price. It's definitely worth it. The next one is Atma Hope. This weapon merchant, well, gear merchant, sorry about that, has a tactical armor vest with Reckless on it, but Reckless was kind of nerfed and fixed, so it's no longer really worth it. But if you're looking for that quite nice DPS increase, I could still say you could end up leaning towards Reckless. Now we also have a prototype mod that has a ballistic shield damage resilience. I see this being quite heavily used if somebody is a frontline armor spec. You know, I could definitely see them using this mod to improve their ballistic shield damage resilience. The next on the list is the Cavern. Unfortunately, the Cavern doesn't have anything nice. Maybe, you know, if you can find a nice gear set, you could use this operator's backpack with a specialized talent, which is not bad. You know, it's an okay talent, and it comes with hefty 819 armor. But I'm just saying, if you're having problem finding gear, this prototype mod is more for mobile cover damage, people who hide behind mobile cover. I honestly don't use mobile cover for shit, so to me this is completely quite useless as a mod. The next one is the Meat Locker. Again, this merchant doesn't seem have anything good this time around. He does have a decent custom M44 with dominant, destructive, and disciplined. It's really up to you if you enjoy sniping. This one is not that bad, but honestly it's kind of quite low on the damage side end. Wouldn't recommend it, not especially for 1.6 million. Then we have our suppressor with a 6.5 critical hit chance, with 2.5% stability, 4.5% optical range, and 45% threat reduction. If it's something that would improve your damage, for this price, why not get it? The next safe house is the Last Call. Right here we have our tactical AUG A3P. It's actually quite a decent AUG with not that high of a damage, but it does actually have quite decent talents. For example, deadly and brutal and commanding, but most definitely deadly and brutal on it is quite hefty. To see those talents back in the day would have been amazing on this weapon. Shit, if I had this in 1.2 with these talents, I would have been one happy camper, but unfortunately, never get that lucky. Next one we have Pro Red Dot Sign. Right here with 18% critical hit damage, 2% accuracy, and 4.5% optimal range, which is definitely not bad for this price. Again, it's definitely worth trying out as a mod for your weapon. The next one on the list would be the Ward Safe House. Right here again we have nothing really worth checking out except for these predator pets, but again, headshot kill grants credits. This is only if you're interested in farming money or if you're looking to get those caches quicker for the XP bonus. Honestly, other than that, it's not really worth it for that money. And now you have also prototype performance mod with 5.5% sticky bomb explosive radius. Now, if you're a sticky bomb build, this is definitely the mod for you to go. If you have enough of these, you could have a nice ass sticky bomb detonation on your hands. Just something for you to heavily to consider. Next on our list is the Southpaw Safe House. Right here is our merchant, and just like the last one, he kind of is selling crap. A headshot kill grants credits. Definitely some major damage as a 7% critical hit damage, which is kind of crap. And the rest of the stats, basically, honestly, for this price, for 890k, definitely not worth it. Next one, we have Prototype Electronics mod. It's nice. It's a decent electronics mod that actually reduces how much damage sticky bombs and explosives deal to you, which is actually quite nice. If you're looking to have that, anti-resistance, be a medic and be resistant to explosive damage, this is definitely one of the ways to go for you. Right now we're at Madison stand. And this merchant also unfortunately doesn't have anything useful on him. He has a mask with refreshed, all healing improved by 30% when in the last segment. Honestly, not that good, kind of low on the armor aspect, but it's not bad on the firearm aspect. Now we have another prototype, just like the last one, which gave to electronics. This prototype will now give you to stamina. Instead, if you don't want that electronics, you could come by here and get this stamina mod, which also does 2.5% exotic damage resilience, so you could definitely have that sticky bomb resistance if you're being annoyed in the dark zone. Next one is the Grindhouse. Right here we have our vendor. We have our military Scarh H, which is actually not bad this time around, with 2 talents of ferocious and deadly and toxic. This is more of a rifle if you're trying to chase somebody down, to put that toxic effect on them so they can't run away quickly. This is definitely a very nice weapon. For this price, I would say why not. Now the next one would be a large suppressor. Right here, a large suppressor with 16 crit, 3.5% crit hit chance, and 5.5 headshot damage. Actually, for this price, it's definitely not bad. Would recommend getting it. Next up is the Firewall. Right here we have our merchant. He has a tactical vest with a rapid talent. Honestly, not worth it whatsoever, even though it has nice amount of health, but it's electronics. Don't even waste your time. Prototype performance mod, 5% chance to first aid ally heal. This is if you're going down a medic build. This is actually quite decent. Why not? You know, it's a quite okay type of a performance mod. And the last but not least would be the Crypt, because I'm gonna do Dark Zone in another video. This seems to be getting a little too hefty, 30-minute video. You know, so I'm going to spread them up into 2 videos. So the next one will come out in several hours. Now, let's take a look at what this merchant has. This merchant has tactical SAG-12K, a shotgun, quite a crappy one, with crap talents. You know, maybe one of them definitely is amazing, but everything else is garbage. Compensator, for example, like Fierce. Compensator right here, you know, even though it's a not decent weapon mod, you know, it could definitely be better. There are way better ones that we've seen at the other merchant than this one. This one is honestly not worth buying whatsoever. But again, it depends on your playstyle. If you think that this is worth for you and I feel it's not worth for me, who knows? Your playstyle could be absolutely different from mine. Thank you all again for tuning in to another wonderful episode brought to you by Games Glitches. If you have any questions, any problems, any suggestions, any glitches that you want to show on this channel, please leave a comment below and I'll definitely try to, well, answer you or at least reply in one form or another. Unless it's a troll comment, then I'm sorry, I kinda get thousands of those a day, so I tend to ignore them. But if you have a legitimate concern, please feel free to leave a comment and I'll definitely try to help you out. Thank you all again for checking out my channel. If you enjoyed this nice little episode, please click like, please click subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Division Glitch video.